Today, we're going to talk about the 3 levels of confidence with women: avoiding, doing, and being. And you guys have all heard me talk about this very, very often on our golden interaction calls with the models, right? I've repeatedly called out some of you guys for playing it safe, for not creating sexual tension, for going into interview mode with these women. Others of you I've called out on being too playful in a fake way, for being showman-like, right? For acting confident rather than just simply being confident. Today, though, guys, we're going to go a lot deeper into this concept of the 3 levels of confidence with women. We're going to talk about the beliefs, the emotions, the behaviors at each of these 3 levels. We're going to talk about where these beliefs actually stem from. So the core cause of why you feel and think the way that you do around women. We're going to talk about how women respond to you and view you at each of these 3 levels, as well as the outcomes you would be getting in your dating life. And more importantly, we're going to talk about the practical steps that you guys could take to move from avoiding to doing and eventually into being. Okay? You guys excited? Let's crack in. So let's talk about level 1. Avoidance. So the emotions that men feel, and that a lot of you guys might feel in avoidance, are grief, apathy, numbness, fear, anxiety, and predominantly shame. Now, you might have never thought about it like this, but the reason why you feel these emotions, especially shame, at the level of avoidance is because you did not get your emotional needs met as a child, right? When you were young, there were specific needs. We're going to talk a lot more about what these needs are. You did not get them met. So what happened, because you didn't get these needs met, you started to feel like there was something wrong with you, that you're not good enough, and you became ashamed of yourself, right? So if your parents, your caregiver didn't give you these things, as a young child, when you're, let's say, 2 years old, 3 years old, 5 years old, you start to think, why am I not getting these things? It must be something wrong with me, right? You don't have the awareness, you don't have the level of emotional development to understand that, okay, maybe it was something wrong with my parent or something wrong with my caregiver. It's like their trauma. No, you internalize this yourself as a young kid. That's the way that the subconscious works. Now, how this all plays out in terms of dating is that, not only for a lot of you, you didn't get these needs met, you also, on top of that, like I did, you were abused verbally, emotionally, physically, even possibly sexually, right? For everybody, it's going to be a little bit different. But there was a lot of abuse that happened on top of that, which made the situation even worse. Now, when you go through all of this stuff as a young kid, because different parents have different parenting styles, what will happen is that you will start to shut down because it's too much for you to handle as a young kid. The way you shut down is that you go in your head, you block out all emotions, and you stop feeling. All right? And you create this kind of like protective wall and shield around you to protect you from these extremely painful emotions that you don't know how to deal with at a very young age. Now, as you grow older, this is then reinforced by negative reference experiences, right? So if you develop this core belief that I'm not enough, it's going to start to repeat itself as you get older, right? Maybe you had your first girlfriend who you maybe get a little bit needy with because of this deeper feeling of shame. You get your heart broken. It makes things even worse. You then start to experience rejection after rejection after rejection. And it's like a snowball that continues to fall and fall and fall. And eventually you just kind of just shut down, right? And you get into the state of avoidance. And that's where this comes from, right? So you start to develop beliefs like, what's the point of even approaching her? She probably has a boyfriend. Who here has had that thought? They see a beautiful girl. It's like, why even approach her? She's like too attractive. She probably has a boyfriend. You might have not realized this, but that thought is triggered by a feeling of apathy. Let's look at another belief. Another thought that comes up is, for example, I don't want to be seen approaching here. Like I'm at the mall, there's all these people around me. Who's had that? I don't want to be creepy. Yep, that's shame. That thought is connected to a feeling of shame. Another one is, I don't want to be too direct with her. I don't want to say this thing to her. I don't want to get really honest with her about my intentions because I'll probably get rejected. Who's had that thought? That's fear. That's anxiety, right? So you guys want to start to understand that all of these thoughts that you have that hold you back in dating are actually connected to emotions in your body. Now, the way that this all connects back to your childhood, right, is that as men, you guys are all sitting here because you want to get better with women. You want to meet women, you want to connect with women, you want to date them, you want to have sex with them, you want to have amazing experiences with them. It's a biological need that all of you guys have. As a man, you want to go out and you want to connect with women. It's not something that you want, it's like a literal need. It's how you reproduce. But if you didn't get your needs met, using the word need here, as a child, you have this really weird conflict inside of you because you have this need to meet women and connect with them, but then you're also ashamed of having needs because you never got those met when you were young. So you feel like you're not supposed to have needs. You're not supposed to be allowed to go out there and meet women. You're not supposed to be sexual with them. You're not supposed to be direct with them. Is this making sense, guys? So there's this really difficult conflict that you're constantly dealing with, okay? That a lot of men are experiencing. Now, at this level of avoidance, if you guys are here, this is what it looks like. You're not approaching. You're not escalating. You're not building sexual tension. A lot of the time, for a lot of men, not you guys, because you guys are here, but for a lot of guys, they're just fucking sitting at home watching porn, numbing themselves out, playing video games, eating junk food, just checked out. Drinking, smoking weed, like what's the point? Why even try? That's avoidance. That's like the deepest level of avoidance. You've completely checked out. All right? Now, how do we get out of this situation? I'm going to give you guys 3 very specific steps. If you want to write these down, you could write these down of how to get out of avoidance. If you're in avoidance, how to move from avoidance to doing. Number 1, you have to make a decision. There's a really important decision. There's like a crossroads that you're at. Here's what that looks like. The decision is that you decide that you would rather deal with these uncomfortable, painful feelings that you've repressed from your childhood rather than protect yourself and continue to stay safe. So you have 2 choices. You could either go option 1, which is continue staying safe, continue protecting yourself, continue being this guy who is very, very safe, who never gets rejected, but who also gets 0 women, but who's internally filled with shame, anxiety, and doubt. You can do that. Or you can now be the guy who goes through these uncomfortable emotions and faces them and deals with them, but then on the end of that, on the back of that, is now able to start to get a different result in his dating life, okay? So you have to be willing to make the decision that I'd rather go into discomfort than stay comfortable. But by doing that, I'm going to get a very different result in my dating life than I'm getting now, okay? Number 2, awareness. So you guys have to start to identify these thought loops. A lot of them might even start to feel like they're real, that they're just what it is. These excuses that hold you back, like the ones I mentioned. What's the point of talking to her? She has a boyfriend. I don't want to be seen by people around me. Oh, she's not really my type. This girl's not really my type. Sure, some of you guys have had that thought before. Another one might be, like approaching in this area. Yeah, this is weird. This is not really the right place to approach. It's probably better to approach a girl that's by herself than with friends. So these different thoughts that you have that you think are real, they're just limiting beliefs. And you want to start to identify what the emotion is behind those beliefs. So when you have that thought, you have that story pop up into your head, identify, okay, what's behind this? Is it shame? Is it fear? Is it anxiety? Is it doubt? Is it apathy? Like, what's really behind this? That's the second step. Making sense, guys? So decide, become aware of what's going on, And the third step is take massive fucking action, right? Nothing's going to change without action. If you're in avoidance, you need to start doing shit that scares you. You need to start going out there and doing things that are very, very out of your comfort zone. That's exactly what we're going to be doing this weekend. We're going to get you guys very out of your comfort zone. That's the whole point, right? You're going to start to do stuff that you've never done before. And that's how you move out of avoidance. You move into a point of doing, where you actually can start to take action. Now, one quick point I want to make is that you guys aren't actually avoiding. Who here, by the way, thinks that they're in avoidance? Raise your hand. Avoidance in dating. Here's the truth. You're not actually in avoidance of approaching women. You're in avoidance of the emotions that you're going to feel around women. That's what you're avoiding. If you're avoiding escalating, it's not that you're actually avoiding escalating. You're avoiding the feeling of shame or fear that's going to come up around you escalating. That's what you're really avoiding. So I want you guys to think about that. All right, take a sip of water here. We're going to talk about level 2, which is doing. So let's talk about doing. Now, with doing, the emotions that guys feel at this level are a lot of the time also fear, anxiety, neediness, attachment, pride, ego, annoyance, frustration, craving. These are the emotions that guys feel at the level of doing. Now, the reason people are at doing, the reason guys are at doing, it's a little bit different than avoidance, because guys that are at this level and that have been here for most of their lives have also not gotten their needs met, all of their needs met, and not consistently when they were young. They got some of them met, and they got them met inconsistently, right? So there's 6 needs. We'll talk about what those are tomorrow, but you got some of them met and you didn't get them met consistently. Example. Your parents work really long hours, right? They come home and then they give you some love when they're home, but they don't really give you as much love as you want, or they give it to you inconsistently. They're dealing with their own traumas. They're dealing with their own issues, right? So what happens at this point of being, for children that have developed this as a defense mechanism, is because they got some of their needs met, they start to develop this belief also that they're not good enough, but the coping mechanism is different. So instead of completely shutting down and numbing out with people in avoidance who are totally neglected and maybe really badly abused, in doing, what you do is you develop a false persona. So you develop this belief that if I am perfect, if I'm good enough, if I do all of the right things, if I have the perfect strategy, then I could get my mom and dad or my caregivers to meet all of my needs, right? It's because it's been so hot and cold. So you've gotten a little bit of love from your parents, then you lose it. You start to crave that from them, and you start to develop this needing to be perfect as the strategy to get your needs met. Making sense, guys? Right? So as this applies to dating, right? You guys are going to see the connection in your romantic relationships. This same defense mechanism, the same beliefs continues to persevere, right? So what happens is that you feel the need to be the actor, right? You feel that you need to be a certain way for women to like you. This is the world of pickup artists. They believe that if they're only high value enough, that if they use all the right tactics, if their game is good enough, if they dress well enough, if they act a certain way, talk a certain way, look a certain way, women are going to like them. Is this resonating, guys? That they, as they are right now, are not enough, right? That if they do a certain amount of talking or flirting or, being charismatic or confident enough, then women will like them. And here's the problem with this, is that you're never at ease. You always feel like dating's a struggle. You always feel like you need to be something other than what you are right now. And you always feel like you need to perform. And now the way that this affects you is that guys at this level, they are able to take action, right? They are able to a lot of the time approach women, make moves with women, be direct with them. But they're doing it from a place of performance. And a lot of the time, they're not actually getting the women that they want. They're getting women that are not really what they want, because the women that they really want, they don't truly feel like they deserve. Okay? Is this making sense, guys? So let's talk about how to actually get out of doing. So there's also 3 very specific steps to get out of doing and to get to a level of being. So the first step is you want to come to a decision as well, as with avoidance, that performing, even though it's gotten you some superficial results, it's gotten you some kind of, maybe not totally fulfilling connections with women, it's not ultimately what you want, that you want something deeper, and that you're willing to sacrifice performance and being this like actor and acting confident, acting cocky, acting nice, acting funny for deep, real, authentic connections, right? So you got to make that decision to be willing to, almost like I've told you guys this before, go down a little bit in terms of your results, but learn how to really be vulnerable. Learn how to be authentic. And you got to make that decision and that sacrifice. Step number 2 is you want to start to, same thing with awareness, identify all of the ways that you're performing right now around women. So what are all of the ways that you guys are overcompensating if you're in doing? What are things that you're doing that are not actually congruent for you? Is it maybe that you're going for women that you don't actually want to be with? That you're just for practice approaching and dating girl after girl after girl that you're not actually that interested in? Who's had that happen before? Is massive amounts of settling, right? Or maybe it's feeling like you need to be a completely different person for women to like you. Who's felt that way before? I mean, I know I have. So that's the next decision you got to make, is to be willing to become aware of what these patterns are and drop them. And here's the third step, is just be. Just be in your body and be vulnerable. All right, let's talk about level 3, which is being. Now, level 3, the emotions that guys feel at this level are joy, courage, love, peace, really, really positive emotions. It's almost like you have this furnace of love inside of you, of these really good feelings all the time for the most part. You feel amazing about yourself. Your cup is overflowing with positive energy, and you have so much to give to other people as well as women. Now, there are 2 types of guys at this level of being. There is the guy, and this is the majority of them, that have always got their needs met as children, right? Their parents were super loving, super caring, super nurturing. They were very consistent in meeting their emotional needs. And the child developed this belief that I'm attractive and valuable just the way that I am, that I deserve to get my needs met, that I'm attractive, right? If I want to talk to a girl, of course she's going to want to talk to me. Of course she's going to want to get to know me more. Of course she's going to want to have sex with me. Why wouldn't she? Like, I'm valuable. I have so much to offer. And they don't just think that logically. They feel that, right? There's this feeling of like joy and fulfillment and security that's just like so rooted into them, right? And these are the guys that never had issues with girls growing up. These are the guys that you call naturals. They've never been to a dating course. They've never watched a pickup video. They've never needed it, right? They've had success their entire lives, despite their looks, right? Some of these guys might be tall, some might be short, some might be, not the best looking, but they've still had amazing results because of this deep feeling of security and this strong sense of self that they've always had. Okay? And I'm sure you guys, who here has met guys like this that have just always been amazing with girls? Never had any problems. Always amazing with girls. Let's talk about the second guy though. And the second guy is very interesting. This is the guy that has struggled, that has been through pain, that has been through shame, that has been through all these really difficult emotions, but has walked the path, right? That has went through the journey of actually facing his demons, facing his deepest insecurities, and through a lot of trial and a lot of tribulation, came out on the other side where he now feels secure. And this is ultimately the journey that I want all of you guys to take. This is the journey I've been on for the past 10 years. And this is the journey that all of you guys, I believe, can go through as well and get to that point where you're all very, very secure and where you're all at that point of being, not just when you approach women, but in your interactions with them, right? When you're on dates with them and even in long-term relationships, all of you guys can get here as long as you're willing to put in the work. All right. I had a mentor of mine tell me this one thing that was very interesting, is that the quote was, to be a man means just to be. I want you guys to think about that. To be a man means just to be. Just to be. Because that makes total sense. If you look at guys that are in being and you watch them talk to girls, they're really not doing much. They're really not talking much. They're not trying much. Yet women chase them like crazy. I've watched these guys my whole life. I would go to bars and study them and observe them. And it would blow my mind that I would be doing all of this stuff and my results would be 10% of what their results are. But it's because of this good feeling inside that they have, this strong sense of self that they have that women could smell from miles away. They're just being. Right? These guys, they can approach women if they want to. They can escalate with women if they want to, but they don't have to. They're not attached. They have this free will. They're just enjoying themselves. They're being, right? So the ultimate way to get to being is through inner work, right? Action gets you from avoiding to doing, but to go from doing to being requires inner work. There's no way around it, right? And that's why everything that we're going to be doing here this weekend is going to be the combination of both action and inner work. Because action on its own isn't going to solve the problem, right? If you guys wanted a pickup boot camp, you'd get a lot of action, pure action. But this is going to require inner work as well. Because I don't just want you guys to get to the level of doing where you can push and force and, beat yourself up enough so that you end up walking up to a girl. I want you guys to get to that point where you actually have a strong sense of self, where you feel good about yourself, where you're comfortable in your own skin, where you don't care about rejection. You're unfazed by it. And you have this incredibly attractive vibe. Okay? So thanks, guys.